Athletes are driven by commitment to their sport, to themselves, to excel itself. Commitment fuels the extra mile, the final set, the last quarter. Going on with the body begs to stop. A winner makes commitment, a loser makes promises. Some young athletes are using the drugs with the belief that they can become great in their sport and gain money and fame. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Zaim bin Muhammad Bahrain. Together with me today, Nur Alia binti Abid Jalil, Nadia binti Muhammad Nasir, Muhammad Abid Rashidi bin Abdullah. Peel one by one the topic of the drug intake, the effect of drug intake towards athletes. So nowadays, taking drug among the athletes has become a common towards all the athletes around the world, not especially in Malaysia, as we can see, such as a breaking news in 2014 when Datuk Lee Chong Wei had issue about doping. So, the first speaker I would like to call upon Nadia Nasir. So, Nadia, can you give your opinion about effect of taking drug towards the athlete?
Alright, thank you to our moderator today. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good evening, Abid, to the speakers, moderator, members of the flow. So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for giving me a chance to talk and to discuss together with our topic today, which is the short-term and long-run effects of performance-enhancing drugs on an athlete's career. Right, ladies and gentlemen, reputation is an important agenda in becoming athletes in order to keep their supporters together, especially when it comes to international sports player, where they get more supporters and fans all over the world. So here is where my point comes in. Doping, which basically means athletes taking illegal substances to make their performance better, will ruin the reputation of the athletes for a long run.
So Nadia, what would be the next prompt action once the athletes were found doping?
Right, thank you, Zaim, for the question. So when athletes are found to be doping, all the titles, their prize money, and their sponsors that they gain will be taken back by the organizers. An alarming number of sports today, which includes baseball, football, track and field, and especially cycling, have been shaken by doping scandals in recent years. So several Olympic champions were stripped of their medals as a result of this positive drugs test. So this eventually will make the people to have an idea that these athletes, they are actually relying solely on the drugs for them to win. So this will eventually lead to a bigger question on the athletes about the capability in sports. So their true talents and their real talents now will be overshadowed due to this moral outrage. So members of the flow, what will happen next is that the fading of their reputation is a start to a great loss to numbers of supporters and fans. This is because their loyal supporters would somehow feel like a sense of they are being cheated on, and all the effort that they had put in together in cherishing the spirits of sport is nothing but actually a waste. So this impacts even more on their supporters from the underprivileged countries, as it gives an unfair advantage to the wealthy one who can pay for these undetectable drugs. So this scenario is actually very detrimental, ladies and gentlemen, because a bigger issue, which is discrimination, will occur among the wealthy and the underprivileged in the end of the day. So in conclusion, this negative impact on the reputation of the athletes might last for so many years, because now this incident will build a black history to the sports legacy, as the news will spread in the internet where people can just access to it at any time and any way. Hence, it is crystal clear now that the consumption of performance-enhancing drugs, or what we call as doping, will ruin the reputation of the athlete's career for a long run. So that's all from me. I'd like to pass this flow back to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Nada, for the brilliant perspective from you. So, as we all know, that the athlete take drugs, the reward and prize money, as told by Nadia, will taken back by the organizer, and they also lost their fans since all their fans will not uh, relying on the athlete and will choose another athlete to be support. So they will also create a black history in their life. So for the next question, I would like to call upon Alia. So Alia, we know that drugs are usually related with health because our body has certain unique mechanisms in responding towards the contents. So in your perspective, how can the drugs effect on health or affect the athlete career?
Alright, thank you Zaim for the question. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good evening, Abid, to my fellow friends here, and also Miss Haja. Okay, when we are talking about the effects of performance enhancing drugs on the athlete's career, we must clarify ourselves first with the idea of how these drugs, or also commercially called as steroids, could impact them in terms of health, whether in a good way or even bad way. We know that the main intention of majority of the athletes in taking these steroids is to gain the androgenic and masculinizing effect to increase the muscle size and recover more quickly from workouts. So here's the deal. In order to appear more masculine and stronger, they are actually putting their life at risk without they even realize about it. Little do they know, excessive intake of this kind of drugs, especially without any prescription from their doctors, could lead to a lot of psychiatric and physiological health problems. Let me take mania and psychosis as one of the problems, and cardiovascular disease as one of thousands of physiological side effects of consuming these drugs. Just imagine if we heard news about one of our well-known nation representative athletes having this kind of health problems. Don't you think that it would be the wildest nightmare for them? Yes, you're right. Ladies and gentlemen, corresponding to our topic of discussion on how this situation could specifically affect the athlete's career is when those mentioned health problems can temporarily or even permanently stop an athlete from joining any sports events anymore. Drugs can seriously impair an athlete's focus and performance. In worst case, due to these negative effects, they may be forced into early retirement, which means they lost their job. Well, I think it is impossible for the organizer of a football match or badminton competition to allow a player with severe health condition to join the game. Otherwise, they need to compensate for the risk. This, I would say, is changing the athlete's life at 360 degrees, just like how Lance Armstrong's life was changed ever since the steroid was slowly showing its bad side effects. To conclude this, I think the main point is for us to play the sports game in healthy, fair and honest way. Taking these steroids is actually simply indicates that they are actually at the state of desperation in which they want to be the champion of the competition at any cost without thinking about the prolonged effects of their decision. So that's all from me. Thank you. So I would like to pass the mic back to our moderator.
Thank you, Alia. So we can conclude from Alia. If we take the athlete take drugs in their sports, so they will gain muscle with low effort because the drug will help them to be more aggressive and to increase their hormone. And taking drugs also give a bad side effect, such as physiological effect, such as cardiovascular effect in a long-term effect. So this will also affect their life after they're being athlete. So so next question, I would like to call upon Abid. And my question is, in your opinion, what will happen to the athletes' fan base effect after they are accused with positive doping test result? So Abid, can you give your perspective?
Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I wish to all, especially to our moderator and also the other two speakers. Right, my name is Muhammad Abid, and now I'm going to answer the moderator's question on how these accusations of the athletes from being positive from the doping test going to affect their fan base. So, my friends, also the ladies and gentlemen, decades of sports scandals have come and gone, and somehow more cases frequently find its way into the spotlight. And now we are here today talking about another controversial issue, which is steroid, which is the doping one. And hearing that many athletes from numerous sports that have been criticized, also dethroned from their remarkable achievements just because they failed this mandatory substance test. And this kind of doping controversial issues has occurred and also occurred in our own country, which is Malaysia. I take one example, which is Datuk Lee Chong Wei, which is the world number one ranked in the badminton sports in 2000 until 2014. Datuk Lee Chong Wei also have been accused with a positive doping test in 2014, and the effects from this kind of problems has ranked down of his world ranking to 49th. And what we can see over here is that this kind of unhealthy challenge or sports uh, in our current world is actually very, very unhealthy and also unfair in the very first place. And I will also to point out another example, which is the major league sports athletes such as Barry Bonds, who are caught using these performance enhancing substances. This kind of athlete also have been ruled out from their national teams right away after he got the positive doping test. And how this kind of things is gonna affect their fan base. So the first one, how it's going to affect is that their fans will no longer have the confidence to support this kind of athletes because in their mind they are very, very disappointed and also feel the hatred feeling to this kind of athletes because they are cheating in the very first place. This is kind of sports that we are measuring in terms of their physical ability from the very hard training and not from an instant effects of this kind of drugs. And talking about their fan base also, most of the athletes in 2021 have social media. And furthermore, when they are influencing people day in, also day out, there will people who will actually trying to copy or taking this kind of examples to accomplish things much more faster in alternative but in unfair way, which is very, very unhealthy for our current world. So to conclude all of this is that we whether a sports player, athletes, or even just a normal person, we cannot take advantage on what technology can cater for us. And that is why I'm here opposing strongly the idea of that doping must be implemented in our sports, and also the usage of doping is just going to make a blunder in our sports activities and also in the big competitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Abid, for the brilliant idea. So, what I can conclude in our forum is that stimulants such as drug can directly affect our central nervous system. They work to speed part of the brain and body, increasing the heart rate and blood pressure and metabolism. They are used by athletes to reduce tiredness and fatigue and to increase alertness and competitiveness and also aggressiveness. Although they seem have a positive effect for the athlete, but without knowing that they have actually have a long-term effect that is very negative, such as loss of fans, physiological effect as stated by Nur Alia, such as cardiovascular effect, and also affect their life to turn 360 after they being an athlete. So, in conclusion, we know that taking drugs have a many negative and bad side effect towards the athlete and should not be taken by the athletes nowadays. So that's all from us. Thank you for the audience. Thank you also for Ms. Hajar, and thank you for the speakers.